This is the Craig L. Hayes Show.
And welcome back to episode number 2 with Richard Collins on It's Showtime, the Craig L. Hayes Show. And we're going to continue with our conversation, go into a little more in depth on some things, talk about some of the jobs that you've done around town, some of the things that where you've worked, and the stuff you like, the stuff you didn't like, and trying to get a good perspective on being a stagehand. So carry on.
All right, cool. So I started off with Jubilee, as I said. Started over there working the rail. Just bounced in over there. Joe Extra, stuff like that.
And just explain what working the rail means, because there's people that hear this and go, rail? What's that? You guys got train tracks on a stage or something?
So the arbor system, basically, that's where you want to, the rails over either stage right, stage left, depending on how your stage is set up. But, we had stage right where our rail was. But anyways, working the rail, you had to climb the stairs to work the rail. So you're pulling the ropes to make the scenery come in and out using the arbor system, so a counterweight system. I didn't know anything about that at the time when I went in there, and learned real quick. But it was fun, it was exciting, and there were showgirls.
Yes, showgirls are always good to have around.
And I learned to keep my head down and my mouth shut real quick.
Yep, you don't stare.
Topless showgirls, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it was an experience. I also did a little week over at Crazy Girls back then, and
what did you do there?
I was gonna be the head carpenter over there, but
wow.
I was married at that time, and I don't think that was a good place for me to be.
Yeah.
So I went with the 50 showgirls over at Jubilee instead.
There you go. That was better.
Well, I just kept on bouncing in over there.
Yeah.
It was just a time where, that job was available, but it wasn't something that I was able to do at that time, or I didn't do at that time. But then I just stayed at Jubilee, bounced in there until I got over there and offered a full-time gig. What happened was the acrobatic act that was in there, the flying act, the silk act that was in there, they needed somebody to operate it, and I was available. So I went in there, and that was run by the props department. So I ended up getting a gig in props because there was an opening over on stage left. And that's where I lived for 5 years.
Isn't it funny, just the silly things that happen, and it turns into years worth of work.
Absolutely.
That was me at the Riviera. I went to the Riviera on ASAP because somebody had gotten sick or something. They said, "Can you get in there and just help push scenery?" I was like, "Yeah," because I just lived, about a half a mile away, something like that. And I get there, and I was like, "Oh, cool. Well, that's it. I did my 2 shows." And they said, "No, can you come back tomorrow?" I was like, "Well, yeah." And the next day, I was like, "Okay, how long do you guys want me to be here?"
Yeah. Well,
I
now
was
that
working daytimes doing the pool stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, so I was working the daytime stuff, doing the same thing, bouncing on all these different things. And they said, "Well, we want you to stay here permanently." And I was like, "Okay." And I went to the pool place, said, "Bye." Done. I'm done. And at that time it was like, May or June, and doing swimming pools again. I was like, "No, thanks." No.
Yeah, once I found out I could do the shows at night and do more stagehand stuff during the day, that was pretty much me for 10 years. Just working during the day and working at night, working during the day and working at night.
Yep.
Most of the time, 7 days a week, I'd have every other Friday night off because it was somebody else had to work it.
Yeah. It's a hard life.
Yeah, you miss a lot. You miss a lot. Now that I'm semi-retired and I'm able to be with my younger daughter, you know that you missed a lot of your older daughter's life. That's pretty much one of the biggest regrets I have, is missing that.
Well, you're not alone.
Yeah.
We're all in that same boat. My oldest 3 could tell you the same stories.
Yep.
So, yep, we never saw Dad. He was always working, and my youngest son, he got to see me a little bit more, but
No, I'm still here, and they can see me now.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And none of them are in the business. They all stayed away from the business because they didn't want to do that to their family, and I'm proud of that. That's so proud of them for doing that. They put their families first and making less money, but being around their kids and stuff. You know.
That's a good choice.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
needed.
But like I told them, I said, I didn't like you kids. That's why I stayed away. That's why I worked somewhere. I didn't like any of you guys. So, yeah, and they give you the stink eye. All right, Dad.
But yeah, so Jubilee was a big part of my life, and I still know a lot of those people. I still try to keep in touch with those people as much as I can. But there was also times at Jubilee where it was, I need to get out of here, and move on to something else or do whatever else, which is what I ended up doing, going and working over at the Luxor. But over at Jubilee, I learned a lot. I fixed the backpacks, which are the pieces that the showgirls wore with the big feathers, stuff like that. Was able to work with a lot of good people. I learned a lot of things over there. I didn't ever run a spotlight over there, but I sure could have, and it probably would have been fun. That's probably one thing that I would have liked to have done over there, is run a spotlight for the show.
Do you run Spotlight?
I do spot.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I used to do it for Scott Hayes over at the Luxor. He said I was pretty good.
What does he know?
I did over at Caesars. I did Rod Stewart. I was his spotlight operator.
Oh,
for
in the
for-
Coliseum?
for a few shows. Yeah,
That's a pretty good throw, though, right?
Yes.
That's a pretty long throw.
actually, it was a big show. It was a New Year's show one time too. I was up in a scissor lift with the spotlight.
The
Do a
stuff,
headshot on Rod Stewart. Boom! I nailed it. So
the stuff we do,
you
man.
get gigs that way.
Yeah, but it's just, you move, and those in a scissor lift will move around a little bit, so your light will look like it's moving,
Yeah.
every move.
Oh
is
yeah, that's why I don't
transferring
like
away.
swing stages. I'd rather hang on two ropes, harness 100 feet in the air than be in a swing stage. Yeah, a 30-foot genie lift with no outriggers.
Yeah. No, I understand that.
But yeah, no. So Jubilee, I ended up over there, like I said, working in props for 5 years, working with a lot of good people, a lot of good talent. Still friends with those people today. Moved on to Luxor and working with Chris Angel in 2008. Started with Chris Angel over there, working his magic show. It was a great experience working with Cirque du Soleil and Chris Angel at the same time, but then, heads butt,
Of course.
and the talent is numero uno, and the production suffers. But, sometimes that's what change needs to happen. But when we did the production in the beginning, it was a spectacular show. You just had to not have a star in it. Not one certain person who says what needs to happen. Okay, you needed everybody as a team, and that show was amazing. And it just didn't work because people wanted to see magic, I guess. They wanted to see magic tricks. They didn't want to see the Cirque du Soleil, which is this is going on over here and this is going on over here. And, maybe you need to see the show 5 times before you catch the whole thing.
Yeah, and I kind of understand that thought too, because magic you got to pay attention to. And if you get distracted looking at something else and you go, oh, wait a second, I just missed the trick.
Right.
Absolutely. What happened?
The focus needs to be on the magic.
Yeah.
If that's what it's about. But there was lots of other things going on, which made it a great show because, you felt like you were part of it, I really liked that show when we did it, the first show. Yeah, it needed some changes and some tightening up, but not a complete overhaul. But that's what ended up happening,
Yeah, and I don't know about him as far as his magic. His TV stuff was okay.
Yeah, he
The
does a great
live
job.
stuff, I was like, I don't know. He wasn't my cup of tea as far as magic. It's-
Well, they all do the same
Yeah, there's only 12 tricks.
You know, and it just depends on how they put it in front of you.
Yep.
What kind of spectacle it's going to be. They have some guys coming into town right now. They're foreigners, and they have a commercial about their show, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, wow, that's the stuff we did. That's the stuff that everybody does.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, Chris is the talent, and I enjoyed working for the production, and I just kept my head down and kept my mouth shut, you know. But I learned a lot going through their programs, teaching me a lot about acrobatic rigging, and that's what I enjoyed the most. You know, doing rope access, learning rescues, and putting them into play, and practicing those things to make sure everybody's safe. You know, because when somebody's hanging in the air and you got to rescue them, you got to be prepared.
Yep.
So that's how we operated. We were always prepared to make sure everything, nothing went wrong. But yeah, I enjoyed working for that show for 10 years. You know, then that was out, and then we moved on to other things. But pretty much in 2018, 2019, you know, we started doing the show Run. Okay, and that only lasted a little bit. It opened up November 19th and closed like February 8th or something like that. So 2019 to 2020, and then the
I remember
pandemic
seeing
happened.
the advertisement at the airport.
Yeah, but that was
And
a
it was
decent,
gone.
That was a decent that was a decent show. Also, there was a lot of good pyrotechnics and stunts going on. A lot of visual things. They were trying to put it like comic book and live action stuff, you know, from comic book to live action, and then videos and stuff like that. But it was a Cirque du Soleil event, you know, so you're going to see this, you're going to see this, you're going to miss this, you're going to miss that. You're going to have to see the show a couple times. But it wasn't, the production wasn't good enough to put the people in the seats, so, you know, changes needed to be made, but they didn't want to put any more money into it at that time because it was 2020, pandemic time.
Yep.
So it didn't work again until 2021, where they were putting in America's Got Talent, the live America's Got Talent over at the Luxor Theater.
Is it still over there?
No, they closed last year, I believe.
Okay.
It ran for 3 years.
That's not too bad.
Not too bad at all.
No. Good work for a bunch of guys. That's nice.
Yeah, but I ended up resigning over there and working over at the Training Trust and living my semi-retired life, working on myself, getting my health better. I had some hip problems from, you know, being in a harness and hanging, and I don't know. I can't blame it on anything, but I had to have operations, and those took some time, and those took a toll on me, but I'm happy where I'm at right now.
Good. And we'll talk a little bit about the Training Trust, what you do there, because that's, the Training Trust is part of our unions, stagehands unions, operation, and it tries to get people better education in how to do their jobs. What else do we want to talk about? It gives people, you got to give an introduction. You have to do the, what do they call that? The introduction into being into the local
Orientation?
Stuff. There you go. Jeez.
Yes.
I
That's
was
okay.
searching for a word. I was like, I knew it was there.
Yeah, you got it.
You gotta give the orientation. You gotta give them the basics and the preliminaries.
Teach them how to tie a couple of knots. Take them through some videos, and give them some basic information about what they're getting into.
Yep.
Go through some union stuff. Go through some website stuff. Talk about the beginning of the union. They have a nice video that they show now to everybody, when the union representative comes over to talk to the people who are going through orientation. But mainly, I do the ground rigging class and the bucket rigging class. And we take people through, excuse me, take people through some certain skill sets, make sure that they are doing those things so they will be competent when they go out to the job.
Do we do climbing anymore? Because I've heard we've been getting away from a lot of that, doing it with just buckets and stuff like that, bucket rigging and stuff like that.
There is a lot of
climbing-
steel access stuff, and then basically now they hire outside sources, rope technicians, rope access technicians. If you're certified in the union and it's a union gig, they're going to call you and to do rope access. So you would want to get certified in rope access to do that job. They do a lot of rope access over at the Sphere. We don't do the rope access training. We do some steel access stuff, which is done by one of our other instructors, and that's pretty much a invite only at the moment. There's just specific reasons why it's invite only, because you have to have a certain skill set and go on from there.
One of the biggest skill sets, you have to be young and not overweight.
Yeah, you have to be able to do a couple pull-ups.
Yeah. It's the stuff we used to do when we were in our 20s in this local and 30s and stuff like that. I can't imagine even trying to do 1/10 of it now, at 63. So it's like, no, thank you.
A lot of the things I used to do, I look back and I mean, all of us did it. And the safety protocols that are put in place now, I look back and I'm like, whoa, I did that. Ooh.
Yeah, I've done a few things around here that probably OSHA would frown on
Oh, yeah.
deeply.
OSHA ANSI.
Yeah.
I know everything, you have to have a certain level of skill and then certain certifications, and you're able to do certain jobs. If you want to move on, it doesn't necessarily you have to have a cert or be certified in something. If you have the skill set, you can go through it real easy. Have somebody assess you, and there you go. But that's rope access is something that I really enjoy. Even though it is a struggle.
Explain the rope access.
So basically, if I have to get to a job that's not accessible by just walking over there and getting to it, it's up high or it's in an area that requires me to be in a lift that I can't get the lift over there. I can't access it other than being on a rope and transferring over to another rope to get there. So I have certain equipment on my harness. I'll be hanging on the ropes, and then I'll transfer over to the other rope to access that area I need to get to.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty intricate stuff. When you get into it, you really have to pay attention, and there is rules that you have to follow when you're doing it. I mean, if nobody's looking and you're out there and you're gonna make a certain move, just make sure you're safetied off. But if somebody's watching you, and corporations are right there, everybody's a production manager, and somebody's always looking up and saying, "Oh, you're doing that this way, you're doing that way." You got to make sure you're on your game. That's all there is to it.
Yep.
If you're doing stuff like that, your life is in danger.
Yeah, constantly. It's when you're switching rope to rope, you're literally disconnecting from your lifeline to another lifeline and hope you did it right, and because you only get one shot.
Yeah. Well, it's the equipment. You got to know how to use it. That's all. If you're not savvy with the job, don't be doing it.
Yep, stay away from it. I don't think I'd want to do it anymore, anything like that. I don't. At the point, I was like, I'll just stay on the ground.
Yeah, I'd rather be on the ground and instruct now. Yeah, I'm not looking to go out there and be in a harness and hanging anymore.
Yeah,
but
it's a
I
young
did
guy's
like
game.
it.
It's a young guy's game now. Climbing around and doing all that stuff. Have at it, you guys. You'll be in the same boat I'm in, and Rich is in soon enough. Because it doesn't last that long. People think you can do that for a long time. You really can't.
Yeah.
You
Well,
got by the time you get into your 40s and stuff like that, you're starting to really start to slow down on being able to climb and hang, and
well,
it
you'd
just
have to
wears you out
you have
quick.
to prepare yourself, definitely. If you're going to do it for a long time, you have to be on top of your nutrition and your body. I mean, if that's your job, you definitely want to be on top of your game.
Yep.
You know, you want to be very physically fit to do that job.
And constantly doing rock climbing and
That too, sure.
just to stay in shape. Just go spend hours every week just climbing the rock walls just to stay in shape. Yeah, no thanks. I've gotten so lazy. But when you're retired, you can be. So who cares? Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember back in 2012, I think it's 2011. Yeah, 2011. I started working at the Smith Center also. So I was working over at the not Jubilee, sorry, working at Chris Angel at night and working over at the Smith Center during the day, getting that ready to open up. Going over there and
What were you doing over there? What was your?
I was doing some rigging over there also. I was going to be like one of the safety riggers over there. They were going to have a position, but then it didn't happen. I was working over there with Joe Erbauer,
Okay.
Bob Stanley, a bunch of people over there. But that didn't work out. You know, they didn't want to give you a permanent position. They were going to treat it like it's just a roadhouse and you're going to bounce in and out. There were permanent positions there, but there wasn't one for me, you know, because
Yeah.
I would have easily left Luxor and went over to there.
And then their head of department guys, they're not even IA guys. They're facility guys. You know.
Yeah, they have facility guys.
They take care of their place, take care of all the stuff, and but when the union road shows will come in, they have to take back seat, obviously, on stuff. And yeah, it's a different setup down there. But I've never been down there, but everyone raves about the place. You know.
Yeah, I love it. I would be there. The last show I worked there was The Lion King. That came in 2018, and I was fortunate enough to be working the rail on that. Did the load in, the load out, and worked the shows. It was a good show. I loved it. And I've done a lot of stuff over there. I mean, just the carp stuff, moving the walls for the symphony. They have big walls that store up stage, and then they come out and you put them in a certain position. And these things are like 30 feet tall. And
Are they on a track? Or are they?
Nope, they're just on casters, and you move them with a mule and bodies.
Wow.
Yep, and you have to put them upstage in a certain position, you know, fitting a puzzle together. They all go in this way, and this one goes in that way. And then when they come out, you put them in a position, and you put them all in their place, you know. So, you have spike marks, but, you know, they're big pieces of scenery, so you got to move them around and get them as good as you can get them. Then you have the ceiling coming in that lands on top of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's an automated ceiling that lives upstage also, and then that comes in and sits on top once the walls are all put in place.
Okay.
Yeah,
And that's for the symphony stuff, huh?
Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's only one other theater like that built by J.R. Clancy. I think it's in England or something like that, or in the UK somewhere. But I enjoyed that. I mean, just doing anything over in the theater is amazing. You know, I mean, even if you're in the basement, you're still part of the show.
You've done a million industrials, and you've done a bunch of shows. Which one you like the most?
I really enjoyed Run, even though it didn't take off. I enjoyed the people. I enjoyed the acrobatic things that we were doing with the rigging. It was the stunt rigging that we were doing. It was pretty exciting. I was part of it, so that was really fun. And if it continued, it would have been great. But I really like the acrobatic rigging part, and the being part of the team with the acrobats. My first gig with flying the guys on the silks, doing their stuff. It was fun. That's what I don't really miss a show. I just miss parts of them. each one had a certain part for me.
I enjoy doing shows. I never really didn't enjoy doing conventions and industrials and stuff like that. Shows, I've always done show business, the actual entertainment side of it.
Yeah, I love doing shows. And, I didn't really take to doing the conventions myself. I'd rather be in a theater, most definitely.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that just love doing conventions. But, it used to be at conventions, you'd work, nonstop for a couple, 3, 4 days, a week, or 10, whatever like that. And then you'd have a week off. And that's what
Right.
they liked about it.
Yeah, or you'd have the summer off.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know about that. It's-
If I wanted the summer off, I'd be a teacher.
yeah, exactly. I go work for the school district if I wanted my summer off. And every other holiday and every other, on and on and on. Yeah, my wife and I always have that discussion. She was a teacher. And I say, you guys only work 180 days a year. Most people work, 250 or something thereabouts.
I would, when I was working Jubilee, I would do the math on that. I would be like, all right, I'm working 6 nights a week. That means I only have 52 days off and, stuff like that. And I was like, but I'm working most of those too. So I'm working like 330 days a year, if that.
Yep.
Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but I was working like that.
Well, there was years here that take a vacation or your days off. We had like 21 days off the whole year. We were not here 21 days. That's a lot of work. That's 340 some odd days, 44 days basically.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work, man.
There was times over at Chris Angel where I was working from 7 in the morning till 11:15 at night.
Yep.
That was crazy times.
You can do that for a few days,
Yeah.
but you go much more than a few days. Yeah, you wear people out too quick. 12-hour days basically is what I always kept it here. That's when we were doing big shows. Everyone worked 12 hours, period. Because it was, I want people to be able to go home, get rest, get at least a good 8 hours, and come back and let's do it again.
You don't realize how important that getting that rest is.
Yep. Because 12-hour day is basically 13.
Oh, yeah.
You have 2 half-hour breaks basically, so that's 13. So now you're down to 11.
And then you're
travel
driving.
time back and forth
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So if you do everything right, you're going to get 8 hours, but you better do it right. Go straight home, go to bed, wake up, get dressed, come back in.
Yeah, I was a good 5 hours. 4 or 5 hours sleep, I was back at it again. But
Yeah.
it was rough. It was rough. Absolutely.
Been down that road many a times.
Yep. If you're a stagehand, I think you've been down that road.
Yeah, I don't think you're a real stagehand if you haven't been down that road a few times. Anyways, that brings us to the end of this episode, and we'll be back in just a few. Talbot, take it away.
This is the Craig L. Hayes Show.